Welcome back to the podcast, guys. Today we are joined by Paemon Aramjoo, who is the founder of Aramjoo Law Firm in Liberty, Missouri. How you doing, Paemon?
And I gotta say that while I am the founder, I'm actually a co-founder, and that my wife Ashley was just as instrumental, if not arguably more instrumental, in getting this firm to be where it is.
Awesome. So why don't we start out with you telling us just a little bit about what you guys do there at the firm and a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. What we currently do at the firm is just personal injury matters. And what that means is that if somebody was injured by virtue of somebody else's negligence, that we could likely represent them and hopefully obtain some compensation for their injuries. Most common case types that we handle here would be auto accidents, motorcycle, truck accident cases. A little bit about myself. I don't think I'm the stereotypical attorney, and that most people that saw me growing up never would have thought I'd practice law. And what I mean by that is that at the age of 16, I was powder coating motorcycles, and I was thinking I might be a police officer. And it really wasn't until my girlfriend at the time, wife now, was so committed to going to law school that I really went along.
Wow, that's great. Wow. So what are the biggest trends you're seeing in the industry right now?
That's a good question. As far as law firms right now, there's a huge shift away from litigation. And it's something that I've talked about on a couple different platforms with a number of lawyers. And the particular issue that I'm talking about is what's described as the disappearing trial. The reason that's a particular issue is that our trial rates right now are at all-time low. So if we looked at 100% of cases that are filed, we'd be seeing that only 0.6% of those cases are actually being tried in front of a jury. And for most people, that's really kind of shattering their perspective of what happens. If I ask most of our clients, I say, what percentage of cases are getting tried? The most common answer I'll see is somewhere between 10 and 20%. And I have them go lower and lower and lower to a point where they think I'm just joking around. And I finally said, no, it's less than 1%, 0.6. Now, that isn't astonishingly low, in that when it was higher, it was really around 1.8%. So it was never off the charts. It was never 5, 10%. But I'm seeing a huge shift away from litigation. And I think the conduit or the basis for that is up in the air. I think we all play a part in it, whether it be attorneys, mediators, judges, clients. But that's a huge shift that I'm seeing. I think what's interesting with that shift is that there's a move towards data. And the problem with this happening together is that as we have less data, of course, the data is less reliable. And so it's an interesting shift I'm monitoring. It's an interesting shift that I think we're trying to play opposite to, but nonetheless is present in the legal industry.
It's gone down by half from what you're saying. Hmm. So, who are your customers, your clients specifically?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've got 3 avatars that we particularly focus on, and they're modeled off of individuals that we felt like we added the most value to, but also were the best to work with. And those are typically middle class individuals that live and work in our community around here.
So, are you guys using AI at all to do any things you do there at the firm?
Yeah, we are. I think AI is still, as far as client confidentiality, is still up in the air. So we're sort of leaning away from it when it comes to plugging out our clients' information, but it's still a highly productive tool when it comes to creating letters, creating systems, creating processes. So we're using it for that. We did have it implemented in our case management system for a bit, in a closed loop system, but it hasn't yet got to the point where we were satisfied with the results. But I'm certainly on board with learning and educating ourselves as to what we can do and what it'll be able to do in what seems like a really short time frame.
It's growing fast. So,
Absolutely.
what have been the biggest challenges in growing the business over the past, say, 12 months?
Yeah, I think our 2 biggest challenges continue to be, and I'll phrase it as an opportunity. Our 2 biggest opportunities in the last 12 months have been people, in that we're constantly on the hunt for really amazing people to work with our law firm. People that are empathetic, and people that listen, and people that care about the situations that our clients go through. One of our most important characteristics that we listen to our clients feel heard, and to have people here at the office that really care about the people we're working with is a huge opportunity. The other one, of course, as we're in personal injuries marketing, and it's part of why we're on this podcast. It's part of why we write articles. It's part of why we try to just get out in the community. Is that we need to make sure that people know that we're here and why we do what we do, so that they have the opportunity to be helped by our services.
So, if time and money were not a constraint, what is one big problem with the business that you would solve just immediately, just right now?
That's a good question. If time and money were not a constraint. It's a good question. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, if time and money weren't a constraint. I don't know that time and money are necessarily the restraint that is most constraining to us, I guess. And I say that in this vein. I think right now one of the high priority items that we're working on is developing relationships. And I appreciate that takes time, and I appreciate that taking people out to lunch takes money, but it's not really the primary constraint. The primary constraint is caring and listening. And so I don't know if we had time and money weren't a constraint, because I don't know if those are really the constraints that we're particularly facing. I mean, we can certainly argue that if we had more time, we could market more. But I don't know that the people that we're marketing to are the people that are interested in traditional billboard, TV, radio marketing. I suppose if we had more time, that would allow for us to have more opportunity to meet with people and develop those relationships. So it's a roundabout answer, but ultimately, I guess that's the answer.
Gotcha. Well, I know for the past few years, ADA compliance with website accessibility has kind of been a hot topic. How are you guys approaching that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're delegating that responsibility to people that we have working on our website, but it is a concern. I think there's been a number of lawsuits that have been lodged, and unfortunately, whether they have merit or not, they're costing the litigants money and time, as we talked about, is important. So yeah, I think reaching out and using the professionals that we have is the way that we solve the problem for us.
So, what are your plans for 2026?
Yeah, great question. So going back to the two opportunities that we talked about, it's us putting together more solid plans so that we can ultimately develop the hypothesis and test to see what works in the market. I think we've done a lot of things in the past, but we haven't been great at measuring and having intentionality of replicating the activity to see what's actually moving the needle and not. So we've got someone that just started with our office that's been doing amazing thus far, going to a lot of the networking events and developing those relationships in the community. That's a big part. Another big part of 2026 is trying to minimize our case timeline. For those cases that we have that aren't going to be litigated, I think getting the case open and closed in the most efficient manner is desirable for all that are involved. And so that means going through our process and systems and seeing where there are lag. Just to give an example, as soon as a client finishes treatment, getting those records ordered and working with professionals to get us the records as soon as possible so that the client has a case that's moving forward. I think if we can continue to market and continue to efficiently work our cases, that'll be a tremendous move for 2026.
Well, it sounds great to me. I wish you well.
Thank you.
Well, for the people listening who want to check you out, they maybe want to check out Aramjoo Law Firm. Where can they go to find you?
It's hard not to find us at this point. We're on every single social media platform, whether it be Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We, of course, have our website, and then we're in downtown Liberty. So if anybody's in the area, feel free to drop by. We've got some amazing places to grab a bite here, and I love talking to people about what we're doing and why we're doing.
Well, thank you very much, Paemon. I'm going to add some links to the website in the description. And I'd like to thank you guys for watching, as always. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.